Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with us.
I'm excited.
Me too. And today we're going to be exploring the world of art therapy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And, we always ask you guys to send us interesting sources, and boy, did you deliver this time.
Yeah,
Some fascinating textbook excerpts and even a few photos too.
very visual.
Yeah, it's going to be a really visual journey, and, we're going to really try to unpack what art therapy actually is like, how it works, and why it's becoming such a powerful force in the world of therapy today.
Right. And it's interesting, that while using art for healing has been around for a really long time, like ancient roots,
Yeah.
the actual formal profession of art therapy is relatively new.
Okay, so we're not just talking like, arts and crafts here
Yeah.
or, finger painting when we were kids.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
this is serious stuff.
Yeah.
So what makes it different from just like taking an art class?
That's a great question, and it's actually a common misconception that people have about art therapy. It goes beyond just creating art for art's sake. Art therapy
Yeah.
is really about harnessing that creative process, but in a therapeutic setting,
Okay.
led by trained professionals who can really interpret the artwork
Yep.
and kind of use that to guide the individual toward, deeper self-understanding and healing.
That's so interesting. And I was looking through the material that you sent, and something that I was curious about was that there was a little bit of a debate about art as therapy versus art psychotherapy. Is there a
Yeah.
distinction there?
Yeah, that's a really nuanced discussion, and there's a lot of debate within the field about it.
Okay.
Some people really emphasize, the inherent healing power of creative expression itself.
Hmm.
So that would be the art as therapy perspective.
Got it.
But then there are those who are proponents of art psychotherapy who focus more on the artwork as a symbolic language.
Oh.
Like it's a window into the unconscious mind.
Like a dream almost.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
So it's kind of two sides of the same coin, I guess.
So is it safe to say then that the artwork becomes a tool for communication, especially for those who might find it difficult to, you know, put their feelings into words?
Exactly. Yeah, it offers this tangible representation of
Yeah.
emotions and experiences, and it helps to kind of bridge that gap between the individual and the therapist.
Yeah, I can see how that would be so helpful.
Yeah,
Especially if someone's struggling with trauma, or maybe they've experienced something that's really difficult to talk about.
absolutely.
Even reading through the textbook, there was a story about a young girl named Ellen who was selectively mute,
Oh, wow.
and she was able to find her voice through art therapy.
That's
That's
amazing.
pretty remarkable, isn't it?
It really is. And Ellen's story really highlights how art therapy can be so helpful for children in particular
Yeah.
who might struggle with verbal communication, for a variety of reasons. It could be trauma, anxiety, any number of challenges.
Yeah.
And so the art becomes this safe and expressive outlet for them.
And it's not just for kids, right?
No, not at all.
Because there was another story in the textbook about an adult named Sally who used art to kind of explore her emotions during a diagnostic assessment.
Yeah, that's a really interesting case.
Yeah, so it seems like art can be a tool for both treatment and assessment.
Absolutely. The creative process can reveal so much about a person's inner world,
Yeah.
their thoughts, their feelings, their perceptions.
Mm.
And in Sally's case, the artwork that she created really provided these valuable insights that
Yeah.
helped inform her diagnosis and even her treatment plan.
Wow, that's so powerful. And, I keep coming back to this concept, the art product as a helpful presence. I think that was
Yeah.
a quote from one of the textbooks.
Right.
Can you kind of elaborate on that a bit more for us?
Yeah, certainly. So the idea is that the artwork itself kind of takes on this presence in the therapy room,
Okay.
and it becomes this shared point of reference
Hmm.
for both the individual and the therapist. So it's not simply about the act of creation,
Right.
but it's also about reflecting on the created piece and what it might reveal.
It's like giving form to something that was previously formless.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
no longer just this abstract feeling or thought.
Right.
It's something they can see, touch, and discuss.
Right.
And that can be incredibly empowering
Yeah.
for individuals who are really struggling to make sense of their experiences.
I mean, I'm thinking about even the story of Billy, who was a 2-year-old
Oh, wow.
who used sand play therapy to process his grief after his father's death.
That's amazing.
It's amazing to think that a child that young could even understand those complex emotions,
Mm,
let alone express them.
right. And that's really, I think, one of the most powerful aspects of art therapy is that it transcends the limitations of language.
Hmm.
It allows individuals, even very young children, to communicate and process experiences
Yeah.
might otherwise be just completely overwhelming or inaccessible to them.
Right.
And so the sand tray, the figures, the textures, it all becomes this safe space for them to kind of externalize their internal world.
Wow. And it's not just about expressing the difficult stuff either, right?
Right.
Because you said this really cool photo of a family creating a collaborative art piece together.
Yes.
So it can also be a way to celebrate joy and connection and resilience.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. Art therapy really embraces the full spectrum of human experience,
Yeah.
both the light and the shadow. It can be used to process trauma and grief,
Yeah.
but also to foster connections, celebrate milestones, cultivate a sense of joy and well-being.
It's like this whole other language that we can tap into.
Absolutely.
So how does this magic actually work? What are like some of the core principles and techniques that make art therapy so effective?
It's not so much magic as it is like a really carefully constructed framework,
Okay.
And at its core, art therapy really leverages that nonverbal, symbolic nature of creative expression.
Yeah.
Simple brushstroke or a molded piece of clay or the way that colors interact with each other.
Right.
All of that can carry immense emotional weight.
It's like tapping into a different part of the brain almost.
Yeah.
A way of knowing and expressing that, maybe bypasses those more analytical or verbal barriers that we sometimes put up.
You're exactly right. And even just the act of creation itself can be therapeutic. The focus, the rhythm, the sense of agency.
Yeah.
All of those things can have this calming effect. And it allows anxieties to kind of fade away and you get into that sense of flow.
Yeah. And, there were a variety of techniques that were mentioned in the textbook.
Right.
Everything from like free association with imagery to more structured drawing tasks.
Yeah.
Can you give us a glimpse into how some of those work?
Sure. So think of it like a toolbox, filled with all these different approaches that can be tailored to an individual's needs. So free association through imagery, for example, might involve prompting someone to just draw whatever comes to mind
Okay.
when they hear a certain word or experience a particular emotion. And that can really help to unlock hidden associations and bring unconscious material to the surface.
Wow, that sounds so fascinating.
Yeah.
And then what about those structured drawing tasks?
So those are a bit more directive.
Okay.
So, a therapist might ask someone to draw a family portrait
Okay.
or to depict their safe space, and these tasks can provide really valuable insights into relationships,
Yeah.
coping mechanisms, emotional states.
I'm remembering the story about Elaine
Oh, yeah.
from the textbook. She used art therapy to process past trauma.
Right.
And it eventually helped her to come to terms with having dissociative identity disorder, or they did.
Right.
It's a really powerful example of how art can help us to confront and integrate really difficult experiences.
It really is. Elaine's journey is just incredible, and it highlights how art therapy can help individuals access and process these deeply buried emotions and memories.
Yeah.
And the act of creating becomes this way to kind of externalize those experiences to give them form and shape and ultimately make them feel less overwhelming.
It's like taking something that feels so chaotic and internal
Right.
and bringing it out into the light where it can be examined and understood.
Exactly. And through that process of externalizing and reflecting,
Yeah.
individuals can begin to reclaim those fragmented parts of themselves
Right.
and kind of weave together a more cohesive narrative.
That's like putting the pieces back together.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm also really interested in how art therapy is kind of branching out beyond those traditional clinical settings.
Yeah, it's exciting.
The source material mentioned its use in schools, prisons, even in response to community violence and natural disasters.
Yeah, that's right.
It's remarkable how adaptable this approach can be.
It is. And I think what's really fascinating is that art therapy is really recognizing that universality of creative expression as a coping mechanism and as a path to healing.
Right.
So whether it's helping children navigate social and emotional challenges in school or supporting communities in the aftermath of trauma, art offers this incredibly powerful way to connect, process, and rebuild.
One of the photos that you sent was really cool. It showed a group art therapy session.
Yeah.
Can you speak to the unique benefits of that group dynamic?
Yeah, definitely. So group therapy provides that sense of shared experience,
Yeah.
which fosters connection and belonging. And that can be incredibly healing, especially for those who feel isolated or marginalized. And even just witnessing others engage in that creative expression can be so validating.
Yeah.
Helps people feel less alone in their struggles.
There's like a sense of, we're all in this together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, shared humanity that kind of emerges through that creative process.
Yeah, I love that. And the group setting also offers opportunities for feedback and support.
Right.
Inspiration. Participants can learn from each other's creative journeys.
Yeah.
And that helps to expand their own possibilities for expression and healing.
So it's not just about individual self-expression.
Right.
It's also about building community.
Yes.
Fostering a sense of belonging.
Exactly. And that sense of community can be so empowering,
Yeah.
particularly for those who have experienced trauma loss or social isolation.
This has been so eye-opening already.
Good.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to the versatility and the power of art therapy.
I agree.
But, as with any growing field, I'm curious, what are some of the challenges that you think the field is facing as it grows and evolves?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges is the need for more research.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
While anecdotal evidence and those clinical observations that we've talked about are compelling, having those rigorous studies is really crucial, to really demonstrate the effectiveness of art therapy for specific conditions and for different populations as well.
Yeah, because that's what convinces those policymakers and insurance companies, right?
Exactly. It's essential, Those research findings can really advocate for wider insurance coverage and the inclusion of art therapy in healthcare systems. Right.
Making it more accessible and affordable.
Absolutely.
Which would be huge.
Yeah.
And the source material also talked a lot about the importance of advocacy.
Right.
What role does that play?
Advocacy is crucial. Art therapists need to be those vocal champions.
Yeah.
For their profession, they need to raise awareness, educate the public, and really lobby for policies that support the growth and development of the field.
So speaking of growth, I feel like we can't ignore the elephant in the room, or I guess I should say like the digital paintbrush.
Right.
How is technology impacting art therapy today?
That's a great question. And it's a really exciting area. Technology is rapidly changing the landscape of art therapy. We're seeing the emergence of virtual reality experiences.
Wow.
Animation software and these digital art platforms.
Yeah.
And, these tools offer these new avenues for creative expression, and they can be particularly appealing to younger generations as well.
Oh, I bet, like the VR stuff especially. That must be so cool to create an immersive experience and really allow people to explore their emotions in this whole new way.
Exactly. And think about animation software.
Yeah.
It allows individuals to create their own stories.
Oh, wow.
And bring them to life through moving images. And that can be really powerful for people who have difficulty expressing themselves verbally.
But I imagine there are also like ethical considerations that come with this digital shift as well.
Of course. It's really important to approach technology thoughtfully.
Yeah.
And make sure that it's enhancing rather than replacing that human connection that's so central to art therapy.
Yeah, we need to find that balance.
Yeah.
Leveraging the power of technology, but while still preserving that therapeutic relationship.
Absolutely. Technology should be a tool for expanding the reach and the possibilities of art therapy.
Right.
But always remaining mindful of those core principles, creative expression, healing, and human connection.
You know what? This deep dive has given us so much to think about. We've explored the history, the techniques, the applications.
That's a lot.
The challenges, and even peeked into the future of art therapy.
Yeah.
But I want to bring you back to something that you mentioned earlier. Which is that even without formal training, engaging in creative activities can benefit us all.
I really believe that, we all have this innate capacity for creativity, whether it's through painting, writing, dancing, gardening, or just even doodling in a notebook. Yeah. Tapping into that creative spark can really nourish our well-being.
So it's not about being like a professional artist or anything like that.
Exactly.
It's just about finding those outlets that resonate with us personally and that allow us to express ourselves freely.
Absolutely. And giving ourselves permission to play, to experiment, and to create without judgment can be so liberating and healing.
You know what? This has been an amazing exploration of art therapy. I hope this deep dive has sparked some creative curiosity for you listening.
Me too.
And maybe even inspired you to pick up a paintbrush or try something new. Who knows? Maybe you'll discover a hidden talent or a new way to connect with yourself. Yeah. Keep exploring, keep creating. And thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
Thanks, everyone.